welcome. I am Melanie Browning, and thank you for joining me for another Spotlight interview. Tonight we have an LA-based actor joining us. He is Jeff Deglow, and he will be jumping on here shortly. And Jeff is described via his Instagram account as a sitcom actor waiting for his sitcom. And also that he is fueled by coffee and sarcasm. I love him already. Let's see if he is jumping in here yet. And I don't see, oh, we have some people joining us. Yay! Welcome aboard. Awesome. Hold on real quick. I have a different setup today, so I apologize. I see that it's super wobbly, and I will be very careful. There Jeff is. Hello, Jeff. Let me see. Oh, perfect. You found the button. And let me get you on here. Hey, how are you? I don't know if that worked. Hold on, Jeff. It looked like it was about to. There we go. Hey!
Did I do it right? I'm not good at this.
What's that? Oh no, you're doing fine. I've got like a little bit different setup tonight, so
Okay.
it's yeah.
This is my first
Who's in here?
live.
Is
Can you believe that?
No way.
It is, yeah.
That's
I'm a newbie.
super crazy. Well, I'm definitely honored. Thank you for joining me live here. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm so excited that you invited me, and I'm so glad to chat and get to know you more and get to share some stories.
It's been great, like looking over some of the things that, are public out there and seeing a little bit about, your career. And it has spanned over a decade. And that's just really amazing. I've been really impressed at looking at the different things that you've done. Can you give the viewers really kind of where you started and how you got into acting?
There's such a long version, but the shortest version, I think, is I'm from a really small town in Canada, and I was just the kid who sat in front of the TGIF, I think. Did you guys have TGIF in
Yes,
America?
we did.
Okay,
I was
great.
there too.
Yeah, so the afternoon specials and the early evening family shows, and just loved it, wanted to be part of that, and just absolutely no access to it. Parents are very much blue collar, and they had no idea what to do with me, and I just decided I was going to do it. So in a roundabout way, I started really backwards. I did this really silly thing. I researched casting directors, and I cold called them at the ripe age of 12 or 13. I'm like, I want to be an actor.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and a couple of them just gave me some sound advice. They did not just hang up on me, and they were like, cool, maybe you should explore what it's like on set. And so I was brought on, and I got to play, and I then learned what a headshot was, and then learned what a resume was, and I went through it backwards. I was just a trial by error kind of guy. So it's
Pretty
just
cool.
been crazy.
I like that. I saw that on a written interview of you, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's 12 cold calling casting directors.
I would never encourage it now, but I had no way of knowing.
Yes, definitely. If you're watching, don't do that. And if you do, our names are never.
No. That is not an official suggestion from me.
It's highly recommended not to do that by many casting directors.
Yeah.
So we'll just put that one out there for the new guys out there. So from that, there's so much adventure looking from the outside of your story. So small town in Canada,
yeah.
Jumping on a call, doing it backwards, and then, getting bit by the bug, starting to take the acting classes, going to school for it, and then jumping across the border and not just coming to a new country, but New York City to go into theater.
Yeah. Again, there was a lot of blind faith that kind of falls into this, and a lot of looking back at it, I'm like, who was that person? Why did you do that? You've nailed it. You've done your research. Well done. No, I was able to be on set a few times before I really pursued it. I wasn't really training as a kid. I just was like, this is the thing I want to do. And so then theater was more accessible. So I was able to do more theater. So in high school, I left my local high school and I moved. My parents allowed me to move to like the nearby like epicenter. So I finished high school in my own apartment. Like
Whoa.
it was again a bizarre thing. I got into school performing arts. So I graduated from the school performing arts, and by that point I already knew that this is like what I had to do and what I wanted. And then yeah, I got accepted to a school in New York, and I took the opportunity. So yeah, I went from a pretty small town of like less than 1,000 kind of people to like a much larger city to New York City before I was 20. So it was a wild ride. Just that exposure rate of I joke about this a lot that I never really saw local theater. Like I really was mostly exposed to like a national tour that would come through town and then Broadway. So my understanding of the industry I always just felt a little bit privileged, but also backwards, where like I didn't see the local kids doing the local things, and I don't know.
That's, I think that there might be a lot of, benefit to that, I mean, local theater is wonderful. And I think so many people get exposed to acting that way because it's in some of the schools. I don't know how much anymore, but I know like growing up, that's where I got exposed to acting, was in schools and the Parks and Rec kind of thing. And so that's the kind of neat thing. But I think that's, there's a lot of good things that come with not doing things, or maybe not knowing how things are supposed to be done.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, it's also caused a little bit of flip in me because, one of the first sets that I was ever on was for the Disney Channel. So it was a large credit, it was a large name, it was a large production. But then when you're 5 years down the line and you're jumping back into that and you're on set and all of a sudden the crew is a crew of 6. It's a vastly different world, more collaborative, more interesting, more exciting in a lot of ways, but also it takes an adjustment. And I think also maybe the other way too, if you start in like the smaller crews and you bounce into these big productions, you realize that you only have one job, and that job is that you are responsible for that one thing and stay in your lane.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's always interesting to see both sides, I think.
That's true. That's true. And kind of jumping back, it was interesting how, because that was kind of my question, like, is that just your nature to go big and go gusto? And it kind of doesn't sound like that's just in your nature. It's just kind of how it happened. But it does seem like that kind of thing still continued. Like you were in New York and then you started touring around America in a theater company.
You make it sound very romantic and very sexy, and I appreciate that. But there's definitely, I mean, yeah, on paper, maybe it looks like that, I think, but hitting the pavement, being in the audition rooms and it's a beautiful summary, of course. I feel like I worked really hard to get the things that I did. New York is a monster. It is a beast, and it will eat you up. And I had some things that worked in my favor, and maybe risk-taking is not necessarily my MO, but one thing I've always been looking over my shoulder is I'm Canadian. So I do have work visas, and those work visas have stipulations and requirements to achieve to be able to stay in the country, to be able to stay employed. So I never got, for better or for worse, out of college, I never had that like, I'll just take a semester off. I'm just gonna like pay off some student loans. I never had that ability. I had an expiration date. So I had to punch it. I had to like just go, and I couldn't stop. And in fact, it scares me. A lot of times I would take things not because I wanted them, but because I'm like, I don't know what's on the other side of this. So if I don't take this now, I can't afford to lose a 3-month contract when I only have 3 years, and I have to prove to the government what I've been doing for these last 3 years to be able to continue to stay. So a lot of ways that's it's really helped me keep like a fire under my ass. And just to keep pushing. But yeah, I mean, I have been very fortunate. I've had a lot of really cool opportunities. But again, I think when you're in it, it never really feels entirely satisfying. I will never take away the gifts that I've had and the opportunities that I've had, but I also recognize that while I was on tour, I was disappointed. There were nights and times that I was too far away from the world that I wanted to be in. I wasn't close enough to the auditions. I was away from friends. I was away from family, and I think along every phase of our career, while it might be satisfying and will be a cool thing later, it comes with its own limits. So yeah, I don't know. Am I answering questions? Am I just talking?
I think no, you're doing amazing. And I love that point because I think it's so important for people to understand the acting profession. And what I think lures a lot of people in is that thrush, that adrenaline, that fame that's looming out there. But the realistic side of it is that there's work to be done. This is a job. And I think a lot of people want to forget that part of it. And I'm not saying, everyone has the same path and have the same, visa looming over their head or anything along those lines. And I think we can kind of sort of choose to carve out certain little things in there. But yes, there's that non-glamorous side of when you're doing the work, and maybe you don't want to work on, that monologue 8 more times today, or you want to go join your friends, but you really need to get this self-tape in. There's a lot of work that needs to go to it. So I think that's a really good point to remind people that if you're getting into it, get on set, see what it's like, see that there's work involved, and are you willing to do that work? Talk to some of the actors. Like, I'm so glad you're willing to share that on here so people can hear, oh yeah, okay, it looks all great and dandy from the outside. But not only is it didn't look like that in the process, also what kind of things did you have to do to, like, as you keep making these next leaps, like you landed in Arizona for a bit, and then now you're in LA taking the big leap to Hollywood and that kind of thing. What's the thought process behind of that transition period? Is it on each step just following the jobs? How does that work for you?
I'm changing that dynamic a little bit, that thought process currently, because I think there's a couple of things that came up to my mind when you were saying that. One thing that's difficult is that we have so little control, right? Mm-hmm. You can do the work, and the work is something that you can control. You can control what you're doing, how you're preparing, what you're bringing into the room. But there are so many factors that are out of your control, and that feels really scary. But not only is there a lot of work, there's also a lot of sacrifice, I think, that comes into play. You mentioned the idea of like self-tapes versus going out. And this is a constant thing. My family they're so gracious, but they have just embraced the fact that even at a very young age, the idea of me going on vacations are very hard. It's a very hard thing for me to predict where I'm going to be 4 months from now, and if I'm willing and able to take a week to 10 days off. Because we cannot predict where that job is coming from and what the next opportunity is. Now, I'm not saying you don't do that, because I'm also a firm believer that you can't put your life on hold. Yeah. But it comes with a sacrifice, both of them. If you are chasing adventure and life, your career is going to probably sacrifice. Is going to be affected by that, and vice versa. But as for the question about getting where the next step was, for a long time I was just chasing the job. That was what it was this show, and then I wanted to do this show, and I wanted to do this show. In Arizona is a great example. There's how many theater companies and how many seasons, they announce their shows and their seasons, and you can kind of predict, like, I would like to do this show and then this show and then that show. And that makes sense. I can build a year's worth of calendar on like the work, but to me that became just chasing the shows, and I did that for a while, and then it occurred to me that a career isn't based on any one contract, right? When we think of our careers don't have predictability. We don't start in med school and we get a residency and then we find this job, and then until we're lured to a bigger, better job do we transition. We can hit high and then drop, and it can take us long time between gigs, and you can do guest star and then you're doing co-stars. Like, there is no trajectory for our career. So what occurred to me right before the pandemic was the reality that the things that I wanted in my life were not going to come to me. I was going to have to go towards. And when I consider the fact that my career is, I don't know what my career is going to be. I can't predict it. And just the way that you gave this really sexy, romantic detailing of what my career was, in the moment, I wasn't seeing that as a career. When I took that tour, when I took that show, when I, moved to Massachusetts for a contract, like I wasn't thinking like, this is my legacy, this is my career, because career is like a retrospective thing. We look back and like, look at all the things we've done, because we can't predict what our IMDb page is going to look like. Mm-hmm. So I made the leap to come and chase and pursue something that wasn't readily available, because otherwise I wasn't going to get it. And even now, there's decisions that becomes harder to make when you're trying to play the game of, I want this thing, I do, but does this thing take away from where I want to go? Like, is this immediate gratification? Is this immediate paycheck? What is this thing? And is this thing more important than over here? I'm sorry, I'm using spatial awareness. So now I'm trying to think bigger picture. Yes, I need to pay my bills. Yes, I want to keep working. Yes. There are systematic steps you kind of need to like continue to level up. Mm-hmm. But it needs to be in servitude to the bigger picture at this point for me.
How well do you manage that thought process for you personally? Do you ever find yourself overthinking it? But I mean, like the way that you're describing it, like you could tell it's well thought out. Like it feels very solid, and I feel like this like confidence in there. But we all go through this process. I just kind of wondered, how is that like for you?
Well, I mean, I think it's always easier said than done. I love giving my friends advice. I am so good at giving advice. I can't take my own advice. I mean, I think it's so much easier to have that outside perspective. And sure, let's talk confidently about this concept. But at the end of the day, yeah, no, it's terrifying because, I think about those actors who are in the position that they are choosing to not audition for guest star roles for a series, because if they book a guest star role in this, whatever universe this is, like let's say it's the Law and Order universe, right? If you get put up for a guest star, and if you book that guest star, which is a beautiful paycheck for a week and a little bit of clout and a little bit of like whatever IMDb credit, you are no longer available for the reoccurring or the series regular. So I'm not at that place where I'm making those kinds of decisions, but I can't fathom how challenging that is, because we as actors and creators, I think, often are opportunists. We want to take the opportunity as they come because we don't know what the next one is. And we've worked really hard to get this one. So a lot of it is luck. I think a lot of it is gambling, and a lot of it is knowing yourself. I haven't had to make major investments like that have like blown up in my face. But I think as I'm embarking in this particular market, these are the things I'm trying to be aware of. This is a conversation I've had with my agent of this. I have a national tour coming out. A national commercial coming out next month. And my question to them was like, is this product and the one that we want to go for, because it immediately has conflicts, right? So the answer is yes. It's an exciting brand, but when these commercials come up and these auditions come up, you don't want to say no to them, but you have to think about the long-term effect. Yes, the commercial would be really awesome to do, but does this take me out of any bigger company for the next 3 years that would pay me more and give me more exposure? And you don't know. And that's where the trick is like, I could say no to this thing and then sit twiddling my thumbs for the next 3 years and have missed this thing, missed out on the original offer.
I really like how you said, you have to know yourself. And I can see the self-reflection and what some of the stuff that you've gone through in internalizing that, knowing that. I think that's important. I think that's important in any area of life, to know yourself and to know the business you're in. I think a lot of people, learn a lot of this trial and error, and some things can bite you in the butt really fast with trial and error, especially when it comes to conflicts and stuff like that. So yeah, be a person that researches, asks questions, get a good agent where you can have those conversations and be comfortable enough to know, okay, I don't know this. Where do I need to find this information? Where do I need to go to figure this out? And can you help me here?
Yeah.
So those are all great points that you've shared.
Yeah, I think you, like you said, knowing yourself, but knowing the business, two different monsters to know, but then knowing yourself in the business is also something really important. Knowing realistically where you sit. It's always important to have a dream. It's always important to have that goal, but realistically, like, what are you realistically castable as? Because once you know, and I share this with, when I mentor people, I've coached in the past, and I always say, like, don't hide from your stereotype, like, lean into it, because that is your easy money. Brad Pitt, I mean, maybe I shouldn't quote names, but, started in Thelma and Louise, and what a great role for him. And then he leaned into the sexy guy that eventually led him to being in a position that he could make more stronger, wiser decisions. So I think starting out, there's a big part of needing to lean into what works best and easiest and fastest to get the experience and the credits and the exposure and the resources, whether that's extra time because you more money, and which buys you some more time before you have to pay rent again, like whatever it is. So knowing yourself, is important.
That's awesome. I love how you're factoring both, and there's this beautiful balance going on of letting the dream be there and having the realistic view, and that with that, I wonder, do you allow yourself, and have you currently looked back at your career and gone, yeah, okay, cool, like, do you give yourself that credit? Do you have that moment of celebrating at all?
I'm working on it. I really, we hear it all the time, that you need to celebrate the wins. And I think it's really, for me, I find that really difficult sometimes because, again, going back with that world of sacrifice, wins come with sacrifices usually. And I've recently mused that idea of I love when my agent calls or my agent emails me, because that means there's an opportunity lurking. And whether that's an initial audition or a callback or a booking or an avail check or however, but I also have a lot of anxiety around those calls and those emails, because immediately that means that something is about to change for good or for bad. And whether it's just reshifting my schedule. Oh, you have an audition tomorrow at noon. Oh, well, my plans tomorrow now need to be shifted and changed. And now my plans tonight have to be shifted and changed because I need to prepare for this thing that was tomorrow. And now I have to move all these things that were in my life to somewhere else. And that is a hard thing. That's a hard thing to do. And yeah, you want to celebrate the wins. But then at the same time, it's hard to celebrate the wins because wins mean more work, in a lot of ways, I was put on hold for 2 commercials last week. I started being I'm starting Monday on hold for 2 commercials. Well, I've since been released from both those holds, but that put my whole week into a really weird balance of, okay, so I can't make plans because I might be busy, but I don't want to not make plans, because if this doesn't work out, I don't want to be. So it's hard for me, I find it really hard to celebrate the wins. I think it's easier to look back when people are like, you have this really cool story. And you're like, you know what? I do have a really cool story. Thank you for saying that. So I don't know. I would love to be better at celebrating my wins. And I encourage everyone, if you know a way, if you know a trick, please let me know, because
work on you with that.
Yeah. Let us know.
I'll definitely DM you some tips there. That's for sure.
Well, do you know any? How do you celebrate your wins?
Mostly just reflecting, taking the moment and getting that awareness of okay, beforehand, I actually thought about this. This is what especially if it's something I really wanted, and okay, I set out to do that. And to remind myself, I like sitting in that moment and feeling that joy of it. But it's kind of funny because a lot of times I celebrate my wins before they happen. I know that sounds weird,
Oh.
but it's kind of the process of visualizing it and feeling it and enjoying it and bringing it to you. And then that way, if you don't get it, you already enjoyed it. I'm not saying enjoy it publicly. I'm saying enjoy it, get the feels of it. And then, but it is kind of funny because oftentimes when it comes wrapped in such a different package, like you're describing. It comes with the work. It comes with all of those things. So honestly, a lot of times my wins that I enjoy are before they happen. But then when they come, I'm ready for them.
Right.
You know what I mean? If it makes sense, and you can be in the moment and do the work. And then later, there are often times I look back and go, huh, yeah, I did that thing that one time. And then I use that to help support and move forward onto the next scary thing. So I kind of use that as like my little success board and like thing to remind myself, you can do hard things. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I use it, if that makes sense.
But also, don't you find that often when it rains, it pours? I mean, I know that's a saying that they always say. I find that you will go for weeks and being like, I think hello. And then other weeks, it's just rapid fire so fast that you can't even celebrate the wins because it literally just becomes a scheduling thing. I
call it a tornado. Like it's a tornado. It's just like this big whirlwind. And sometimes I feel it as it's coming. It's so weird. And I'll tell people it's coming. And it's just like, whoosh, is this like, okay, maybe I need a nap before this comes or something. I don't know. build
up some resilience for it. No, I think that's also funny. I think about it like as ebb and flow. And I think the worst, if we're getting like a little hoo-hooey, but I think the worst is when you feel that you're in the flow and you're like, things are coming, but cyclically that it's going to dip out. And you're like, I want to ride this high for as long as I can. And when it starts to slip through your fingers and there's really nothing you can do to control it, and you're like, no. I
think the best moment of flow is when you're in it, like, because flow is great when you don't know it's there, you're just flowing, right? And the moment you just realize, oh shoot, I'm in the flow, like that moment's the best, because after that, the awareness, it's you just try and ride it. You try and ride it all the way to the beach until it fizzles out, and just maybe a little extra push there.
I love it, like the surfboard, surfing, and then you pick up your board and you like run right back into the ocean. Not that I surf, sorry guys, mind you. But that's a great metaphor of like you just kind of like waiting for it to like cusp, and you're like now I'm having fun if you don't fall off the board. And so
yeah, I saw something on surfers today about it too. Like the surfer mentality. They know the waves come in, they're going, but they're gonna ride it as long as they can. They're just gonna, ride that bad boy as long as they can and enjoy it. So that's wonderful. And yes, looking at everything you've done, I think you're absolutely amazing. Just you're fun. You're so honest and sharing. I think that's such a great trait to have, especially in this industry. Not saying that people aren't that way, but I think a lot of times we want to hide ourselves, and artists and creatives a lot of times are, want to hide that vulnerable spot, even though, because we're expose ourselves so much. I really appreciate you sharing that journey with us. I really, really do appreciate that so much.
Thank you. I think that in itself is a journey. I think I'm coming to that reality too of wanting to share more. I heard this quote years ago when I was like whatever, but the idea of like an elevator, of like someone, you ride this elevator up, and then once you get to the top you kind of have to send it down to bring someone else up. And I don't know if I'm actively doing it or not, but I've had so many people help me, especially now. I'm just arrived in LA, and I've felt so cared for and so taken care of and seen and aided. And it didn't have to be that way. So I'm by no means claiming that I have any authority on what I'm saying or help, but I think it's important to be able to share the human aspect of the career, because we can all see the success stories. We don't have to look very far to find a success story, but to really hear that journey of them in the process of climbing and bettering themselves and bettering their community and trying to to connect with all of that. That's why I love what you're doing. I love this. I love that you bring people together and share this platform for good and for inspiration and positivity. So we appreciate you.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate you so much. And I'm glad to hear that that's the welcome that you've had, and that's experience you're having in California. That's wonderful to hear. That's great. I'm glad you're being taken care of.
Thank you.
So, and thank you. Everything that you've shared here has just been great. I think anyone at any level has something to take away from tonight. So thank you.
Thanks.
Where can we go to support you, to follow you, to cheer you on?
Venmo me.
Just find out more about you. Not stock. I might have been doing that a little bit this week, but you know.
We love it. No, I think the best way to communicate with me or to follow me is on Instagram. Sure, I have all of those other platforms, but I'm not active on them as of yet. So Instagram is definitely, so at Jeff Deglow. I'm live on it right now. Just hit and follow. And then my website would be jeffdeglow.com.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And anything else before I cut you off?
Well, I wanted to hear about you. I wanted to ask a question about, with February being like the month of love, like what are you loving right now in life? Is it whether show or process, or like Melanie, what are you like loving right now?
It's funny because I just love my life. That's like my theme. And I took a little dip. I rode that wave out, and last year, toward the end of last year, I was on the beach and I had to paddle back out. And so I'm fortunate. I'm really back in that zone where I love my life. I have some amazing, wonderful humans in my life that help that a lot. And I'm getting more in tune with me and where I want to go and the things that I want to do, the big dreams that I have. So getting more consistent in following that and doing the work there. So those two things are my business and acting. And my business so that I can act and have that free time, right? So I'm not like, excuse me, can you sign this pink slip so I could go to my audition maybe that I might get, you know? Yeah. So yeah, those are the things I'm really focused on: family, friends, acting, and my business. Thank you for asking. You're so amazing.
No, I think it's important because you do such a service getting our voices out there, but who are you? Who is she? So thank you for sharing that. That's great. Congratulations and best of luck with all of that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. Everyone go follow him.
And
Jeff Deglow.
Follow her if you're following through me.
Someone's following somewhere.
So they just stumbled upon this. They're like, what is this? Well, follow us both then.
There you go. Awesome. Take care. Have a beautiful night.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.